the ocean before dark. It was the middle of the afternoon. Jack and Annie were playing outside. Jack said, "We live near water." Annie said, "We do not live near water." They started to argue. Annie stopped the argument, and Jack and Annie decided to go to the treehouse. They opened a book about the ocean. Annie and Jack wished to go to the ocean. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything went still, absolutely still. Jack and Annie climbed down the ladder and went on the beach and into the water. Annie and Jack stepped in the water, ocean water. The water was warm and the air smelled fresh. Jack tasted the water and exclaimed, "Ew! It tastes like salt." Annie replied, "Of course, silly, it's the ocean." They decided to go swimming. Jack told Annie to put on scuba gear. Jack stated the scuba gear
will allow us
to swim underwater. Jack and Annie were only swimming for a little bit when they saw a tiger shark. It was swimming right towards them. Annie saw. No, what's that word? Screamed, "Swim away!" All of a
sudden
what? Sudden two more sharks, tiger sharks, came up. The tiger sharks were swimming super fast. Jack and Annie swam as fast they could. In their scuba gear, trying to raise the shore. What's that?
swim,
No. Reach the shore. Jack said that was close. Annie replied, "Of course, that got out of the skier and head back to the treehouse." Jack and Annie raced to the treehouse and all up the ladder. Jack went a good the got to the book first. Jack opened the book of Fog Creek. I wish to go there. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still. Jack looked out the window and said to Annie, "We are in Fog Creek Woods." Annie said, "Hooray! We are home!"
Chapter 1, Ranchers. It was early in the morning. Jack and Annie were awake. Mom and Dad were still sleeping. Jack and Annie decided to watch TV. A commercial came on about ranchers and their ranch. Jack said, let's sneak to the treehouse to find about ranchers. Annie said, the sun isn't even up, but I'll get the flashlight. They reached through the woods and up to the treehouse. Annie found a book titled Horse Ranches. She quickly opened the book and whispered, "I wish we could go to the ranch." The trio started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was absolutely still. Chapter 2, The Bull. Jack and Annie climbed down the ladder very carefully, not to make a sound. Annie turned on the flashlight and shined it around. There was grass, a few trees, and a huge fancy by middle of the bullpen. The bull started walking towards them. Jack and Annie jumped behind the bushes by the treehouse. Jack told Annie to be very quiet. Annie, of course, could not sit still and be quiet. Chapter 3, Bulls Are Not Friends. Annie said, "I'm not going to pet the bull. It doesn't look that mean." Jack whispered, "Annie, please wait, don't go. Let me read." Jack opened the book to see what it said about bulls. Jack read to Annie. It says, "Bulls kick and run, but only if you bother them. So, Annie, you cannot pet the bull." Annie didn't listen and started towards the bull. Jack and Annie heard a burning noise, but the bull came closer because it had Annie. The bull started running towards Annie. Out of nowhere, a lasso came and around the bull's horn. It was the rancher. The rancher was trying to rope the bull. He yelled, "Get out of here, y'all." Annie and Jack took off running towards the treehouse. Chapter 4, Rancher to the Rescue. Annie could hear the bull nodding and jumping around. Jack turned and said, "Say, the rancher, struggling to hold the bull. They reached the treehouse and bowled the ladder. Annie looked out of the window and saw the rancher getting closer. The bull got away from the rancher, started toward the treehouse, and ran the tree. And the whole house shook. The books fell all over. Jack said, "We got to get out of here." Annie opened the book and wished for them to go back to Frog Creek. Chapter 5, Home Sweet Home. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until it was still. Everything was absolutely still. Annie looked out the window and screamed, "We're home!" Jack looked at her and inched towards the door. "Race you home." They reached the front door. Remembering Mom and Dad were still sleeping, Annie whispered, all that bull made me hungry. Let's go eat." Jack agreed and was happy to be home, safe and sound. Chapter 1, Jack and Annie are in school, learning about space. Jack had an idea and told Annie to meet him at the treehouse. Annie was excited, so she went to the treehouse and climbed up the ladder. Then she found a book about outer space. Jack came in and yelled, "Wait!" The treehouse started to spin it until it spun faster and faster until everything went absolutely still.
Chapter 2. Jack and Annie arrived at the moon. They saw mountains and stars in the sky. When they arrived, they were met by 2 astronauts. The astronauts were wearing everything you could imagine. They found the spaceship. Jack and Annie asked if they could go on a ride. The astronauts said no. Jack and Annie said, "Pretty please." Then the astronauts said, "Okay, for a little ride because the ship is almost out of fuel."
Chapter 3, Jack and Annie got so excited they ran to the rocket ship out of fuel. The astronauts have their own space gear, so they go to
the moon. Jack and Annie find space gear and go out the back door of the spaceship. They are new now floating in space. Chapter 4.
Then they found the astronauts and asked them to wait for them. The astronauts helped them back to the moon. Jack and Annie see the treehouse and go inside of it. They opened up the page of the Frog Creek book. The treehouse started to spin faster and faster until it stopped and was still.
Chapter 5. Jack and Annie stepped out of the treehouse and are back in Frog Creek. It is still dark, so they use a flashlight to find their way home. When they got home, they see Mom and Dad cooking and say, "We were playing outside. What is for dinner?" They asked. Mac and cheese, says Mom. Jack, Aunt Annie, and their mom and dad ate dinner.
Jack and Annie are at school. They went to the Magic Treehouse. Annie grabs a book about the jungle. She opens the book. Annie said, "We wish to go there." The Magic Treehouse started to spin and spin. It spun faster and faster until everything went still, absolutely still. They looked out the window and saw the jungle. Jack and Annie went outside to look around the jungle. Then a tiger comes to Jack and Annie. They started to run as fast as they could. Jack and Annie stopped to catch their breath. They went into a cave and hid from the tiger. Finally, they went away from the cave. Jack and Annie got lost. They kept walking and walking. Finally, Jack spotted the treehouse. Annie and Jack went up the ladder. Annie grabbed the Frog Creek book and said, "I wish to go home." The Magic Treehouse started to spin and spin and spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. They looked out the treehouse window and were home. Jack and Annie went to their house and went inside. Their mom was cooking dinner, and it was time to eat.
on the door and opened it. Mia, I need to show you something, Annie said. Okay. Mia said, come on, Jack, let's go to the treehouse to show Mia. And yelled, no, Annie, Jack screamed. He shuffled up and raced down the steps and grabbed his pack, raced to the door, but it was too late. And he raced out the door with Mia. Mia, run faster, said Annie. So Mia ran super fast, almost faster than a cheetah. Meanwhile, Jack is running for his life. Annie and Mia got to Frog Creek Woods. Annie searched for the treehouse. Finally, Annie and Mia found the treehouse. Wow. What is this place, Annie? Mia breathed excitedly. Come on, let's go inside it. Annie said excitedly. Jack quickly got to the rope ladder and started up. When he reached the top, he saw Mia pick off a look and say, I wish we could go there, Annie. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. We're here. Mia looked out the window. Annie, she said, what happened? Annie looked out the window. Jack looked like he could not move. Not even one single thing. Tears almost fell out of his eyes. Jack toughened up. He peeked a tiny peek at the book Mia had in her hand. It said Laura Ingalls Wilder and had a dark red silk bookmark sticking out of the book. Jack looked at his clothes. He was wearing raggy but normal-looking clothes. He looked at Annie and Mia. They were wearing nice pink dresses with a bow around their waist and with matching sunbonnets. Jack looked out the window again and he saw tall yellow grasses, heard birds singing, and the wind was blowing in his hair. The sun was shining bright in his eyes. It was very hot when they all got out, and Jack, Annie, and Mia saw somebody chasing them. It was only Laura and Mary. Hi, what's your name? Laura and Mary said. Hi. Chapter 3. Hi, Jack, Mia, and Annie said. Come play with me, said Laura. Mia and Annie said, sure. Do you want to play with us too? Mary said. Sure, said Jack. All the children went to the river to play. When they got there, they saw a whole coyote pack. They stayed still. Mia, hold still. Annie whispered, fine, okay, he said. Then the coyotes turned around and started chasing them. Oh no, not coyotes. Mary said, Mia, Jack, and Annie yelled. They ran into a cave and were panting and stayed still for a while. Jack stepped back. It echoed. Jack squeezed his eyes shut super tight, hoping not to die today. Grrr, one of the coyotes growled. Laura started crying. Mary came closer to Laura, squeezed her tightly. Mary is also scared. Laura thought. Mary by Laura next to Annie, Mia, and Jack. One coyote scratched at the rocks trying to get in the dark, mucky, cold cave. Jack got out from huddling and went by the dripping door of the cave, and ding! Jack scattered saddles on them. He yelled, come on, guys. Everybody hopped on a coyote and rides to the treehouse. Mia made a wish to go home. I wish we could go there. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. The sun was, Chapter 5, we're home. The sun was shining bright and the birds were singing. Jack, Mia, and he said, yes, we're here. Mia and Jack said, let's go. Jack said, yeah, Mia said. Climb down the rope ladder. Jack and Mia, their moms called. Coming on, they replied. Then they started running towards Jack and Annie's house. They went to the back door and crept inside. They went into the kitchen and bump. Jack went straight into their mom. There you are, he said. Mom, Mia started. Mia, we're going home, said Mia's mom. No, Mia yelled. So Mia's mom held her hand and they left. The end. They took off
off running in the woods towards the treehouse. Once they got to the treehouse, they both climbed up the ladder. They saw a book about the biggest woods in the world. Jack opened the book to the page with a blue silk bookmark in it. The page had a picture of a really big tree on it. Jack turned to Annie and said, "I wish we could go there." They both wished to go to the biggest woods in the world. Suddenly, the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Jack and Annie climbed down the ladder. "We're here," said Annie. "I know we're here," said Jack. They walked around in the woods until they saw a bear. The bear started to charge at them. The bear was in a bad mood, but the bear seemed to be very scared of them. It ran away, so they walked around again. Then suddenly, the bear was back again and about to attack an elk who was instantly eating on a bush in the woods. Then the bear leaped at the elk, trying to attack it. The elk came out of the bushes so fast they almost ran over Jack and Annie. "Run," said Jack. The elk leaped and charged into the air, trying to escape the bear. The bear slapped the elk's face and then took a huge bite out of the elk's leg. The elk slowly limped away. "Thank you for saving me," said Annie. Jack said we should name the bear. Annie said we should name him Bob. Jack said it's weird, but sure. Jack turned to the now friendly bear and said, "Can you walk with us to the treehouse?" The bear nodded. On the way to the treehouse, Annie tripped into a river. Bob the bear and Jack did not know what to do to save Annie from drowning in the river. Just then, Bob the bear jumped into the river and he swam towards Annie. "Oh no," said Jack. Suddenly a crocodile appeared. The crocodile was trying to eat Annie. "I never seen anything like that," said Jack. Then the bear started swimming until the bear grabbed Annie and saved her life. "Thank you," said Annie, patting his back. The bear slashed the crocodile and the crocodile died. "Wow," said Jack. He could not believe he was so happy. He ran and gave Annie a big hug. Bob the bear walked towards them and gave them a big hug. Annie had an idea. She wanted to bring her hero home with her. Jack and Annie took Bob the bear to the treehouse. The tree next to the treehouse was perfect for the bear to climb up in. Annie motioned for Bob the bear to climb up the tree next to the treehouse. The treehouse windows were as big as a bear's size. So Bob the bear jumped through the window. Together, Jack and Annie wished to go home. Annie was so happy that Bob came to Frog Creek too. Annie, Jack, and Bob climbed down the treehouse ladder, and he went into their backyard. That is where Bob lives now, in the backyard of the Frog Creek woods. Under the Ocean, Chapter 1. It was cold and dark at night. Jack and Annie couldn't sleep, so Annie went to Jack's room. Annie was spying on Jack. Annie said, "Boo," in a quiet voice. Jack just jumped a little. Jack said, "Quit it, Annie." Annie said, Okay, fine, I will stop." Annie continued. "Get up, Jack." Jack said, "Why?" Annie said, "You know." Chapter 2. Jack and Annie started to get ready. Annie said, "I will meet you outside." Jack said, "Okay," in a quiet voice. Then Jack got ready really quick. Jack opened the door. Annie was excited. Then Annie said, "Come on, Jack, Jack, okay, said Jack. Annie was already running towards the treehouse. Chapter 3. Annie said, "We are there," but Jack was behind her. Jack said, you might get lost. You need to stay by me, okay?" Annie said, "Okay." Annie continued to say, I will go. Annie raced up the treehouse ladder super fast. Jack was gasping for air. Jack climbed up slowly. When Jack got up into the treehouse, Annie was already looking at a book. Chapter 4. Annie and Jack were in the treehouse. Annie said, I wish we could go there. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. And then it was still, absolutely still. Jack was scared because they were in the treehouse and under them was water. Jack did not like water. All of a sudden, Parker and Eli were also in the treehouse. Parker said, Hi, my name is Parker and this is Eli. Chapter 5. Parker said to Jack and Annie, It's just water, Jack. Don't be afraid. Here is some scuba gear right here in the treehouse. Jack and Annie put on the scuba gear. Eli said, Come on, Jack. And Annie followed Eli and Parker. Eli showed them around the ocean. They bumped into a big fish, and it was not happy. It was mad. It chased Jack and Annie and Parker. A small tiny fish heard them swimming super fast. Then the small fish looked at the other fish and looked forward. The fish knew what they needed to do. The pack of fish swam to Eli, Parker, Jack, and Annie and picked them up. Then the small fish carried them to the treehouse. Chapter 6. They got to the treehouse. And Jack and Annie wished they could go home. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Annie climbed down the rope ladder and dashed home. Jack got down and dashed home too. They got into their beds and went back to sleep.
Chapter 1. Jack, it's time to go, Annie said. 1 second, I need to pack up, said Jack. Hurry up, said Annie and Jack's mom. I'm coming, said Jack. Jack, Annie, and their mom were hurrying to meet Annie's friends. They were coming over for a play date with them. Hi, said Elizabeth. Hi, said Annie and Jack. Annie and Jack said. So what do you want to do, said Emmy. Come follow us, said Annie. I know what to do. They all followed Annie. Are we there yet? Said Emmy. Not yet, said Jack. Jack and Annie led them into the woods. We're here, said Annie and Jack. They were under a big oak tree, and then they looked up and saw a tree house. Can we check it out? Said Emmy. No, said Jack. The girls didn't listen to Jack and climbed the rope ladder to the tree house anyway. Chapter 2. Jack followed the girls into the tree house. Oh, brother, he said while climbing up. Everyone was looking at the books in the tree house. Then Emmy found a book called penguins and other animals in Antarctica. She opened the book to the page about baby penguins and said, "I wish I was." Just then, the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 3. It was quiet for a few minutes. Then Elizabeth said, "What happened?" "I don't know," said Emmy. Jack said, "I said not to come up, and then you made a wish." "Well, I didn't know we would go somewhere," said Emmy. Next thing you know, they started arguing. Annie yelled, "Stop arguing!" After that, they started arguing, and then it got silence again. Annie looked out the treehouse window and saw a polar bear. The landscape was covered with white snow. "Wow," said Annie. "We are in a cold place," said Annie. Jack looked at the book. "Wait," he said. "Did you see any baby penguins outside?" asked Jack. "Yes," exclaimed Emmy as she looked out the back of the treehouse window. "We're in Antarctica," said Jack unhappily. They put on warm clothes and went down the rope ladder, except for Jack. Chapter 4. Jack looked out the right window and saw a leopard seal cave made out of ice. "Oh no," Jack said. He went down to warn the girls, but it was too late. The girls went into the cave, curious on what was inside of it. Inside the cave. "No!" yelled Jack. The girls didn't hear Jack and went inside the cave. Jack went inside the cave. He found the girls. Then Jack whispered, "Crawl to them. Crawl towards me." Emmy yelled back. "What?" Then the leopard seals woke up. "Run!" yelled Jack. Chapter 5. Just as the leopard seals were going to make lunch out of them, the penguins slid in between them. "Slide back to the treehouse," said Elizabeth. They climbed into the treehouse. "Find the Pennsylvania book," said Annie. "Found it," said Elizabeth. "I wish I was at Pennsylvania." The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 6. They climbed down the rope ladder. "Let's go back inside," said Elizabeth. "Yeah, we should," said Annie. They went inside the house to relax and calm down before Emmy's mom picked them up. Elizabeth said, "I feel sick from all that spinning."
Jack and Annie are playing tag outside in the front yard. Annie saw a treehouse in the tree. "I want to go up into the treehouse," said Annie. Jack said, "No, we don't know who it belongs to." Annie went up to the treehouse anyway. Jack followed Annie into the treehouse. Jack said, "Annie, look at this book I found." "A book of Alaska." Annie made a wish. "I wish we could go to Alaska," said Annie. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until it was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. When the trio stopped spinning, Annie looked out the window and saw a brown bear outside. She realized that it was cold out, so she told Jack it was cold. Annie saw a cave and went down the cave to check it out. Jack followed Annie behind Annie. Jack and Annie went in the cave. Then Annie saw a big brown bear. The big brown bear growled and started to chase Annie and Jack. Chapter 3. The big brown bear chased Jack and Annie until Jack and Annie could get into the cave to hide. Then the big bear guarded the cave, trapping Jack and Annie inside. Annie looked out the cave to see if the brown bear was still there. He's gone, Annie said to Jack. Chapter 4. Jack and Annie carefully came out of the cave looking for the brown bear. He is gone. What a relief, said Jack. Out from behind the cave came a black bear. On one, Annie went right up to the black bear. Jack said, Annie, don't go to the black bear. He might be mean. But Annie went right up to the black bear anyway. Annie and Jack got off the black bear's back. Annie and Jack climbed into the treehouse. Jack picked up the Frog Creek book and Jack said, I wish we could go back to Frog Creek Woods. The trio started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything went still, absolutely still. Chapter 6. Jack, Annie said, Mom. Annie said, we're coming. Jack put that book of Alaska back on the bookshelf. Annie said, and Annie and Jack went down the rope ladder and Annie said, I will race you. Annie and Jack raced all the way to the treehouse.
Texas in the afternoon. Chapter 1. Going to the treehouse. In Frog Creek Woods lived Jack and Annie. Annie went into Jack's room. It is 12:30 in the afternoon. It is past lunch. Annie asks Jack if he wants to go to the treehouse. Jack says yes, we can go to the treehouse. He said, let's go get lunch first. Jack and Annie went to McDonald's to get lunch. At 12:10 p.m., Jack and Annie went to the treehouse. Annie found the book about Texas. She turned the page with the purple bookmark and said, I wish we can go there. The wind started to moan and the leaves started to shake. The treehouse starts to spin. It spun faster and faster and everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2. We're here. Jack and Annie arrived in Texas. It was so hot. Annie went down the rope ladder. Jack thought, is she nuts? Next, Jack went down the rope ladder. Jack and Annie meet a Texas Longhorn. Annie finds out he is nice. Jack, he is nice, Annie said. And Jack said, Annie,
How do you know he's nice? I just know it, said Annie replied. The Texas Longhorn sees a rattlesnake. The Texas Longhorn tries to stomp on the rattlesnake. He missed him the first time. The second time he got him. Chapter 3, The Amazing Texas Longhorn. The Texas Longhorn steps toward Jack and Annie. Annie said, I'm going to call you Brownie. Annie decided this because Brownie was the color brown. Brownie saw a python. The python goes toward Jack and Annie and Brownie. Jack shouted, run to the treehouse! Annie ran. Jack followed her. Jack and Annie finally got to the treehouse. Chapter 4, Going Home. Jack found the Pennsylvania book. Annie snatched it from Jack. Annie said, I want to stay here. Jack said, Annie, give me it. Annie gave Jack the book. Jack opened the Pennsylvania book, then said, I wish we can go home. The treehouse starts to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack and Annie peered out the window. Jack said, we're home. Annie said, yay, said Annie. Chapter 5, We're Home. Jack took out the Texas book from his pack and put it with the other books. Annie went down the rope ladder. Then Jack went down the rope. Jack went down with her, Annie. Jack and Annie raced for home. Mom and Dad were eating lunch when they got home. Jack and Annie were happy to be home. Jack and Annie walked into the front door. Mom and Dad asked them, how was your day? Jack and Annie replied, it was great. The end.
Last night in the afternoon, Jack and Annie were in the backyard. Annie whined, I want to go to the treehouse, Jack said. No, it's going to be dark soon. Annie really wanted to go, so she just went. Jack said, wait. But Annie kept going, and she went all the way to the treehouse. And up the ladder. Once Annie was in the treehouse, she picked up a book. Jack was already saying the words, I wish we can go to the grasslands, said Annie. The wind moaned loud, and the treehouse started to spin, going faster and faster. Everything was so absolutely still. The two, the sheet and the line. They're at the grasslands. They heard a sheet at the bottom of the treehouse. Annie said, I'm going down. Jack said, no, there's a sheet down there. But I'm going, said Annie. Wait, Jack said. It's too late. Annie was already down the ladder. Annie put the sheet on the head. Annie called up to Jack. The cheetah is nice. Like a kitten, it was funny too. Jack said, coming. Jack went down the ladder. And the cheetah growled at Jack at first. And then the cheetah figured out Jack the lion was nice and wouldn't be mean. Jack next to Annie saw him. He was lying in the grasslands. He went to see if the lion was nice. Jack saw Annie was gone and ran after her. Chapter 3, The Python. Annie finally reached the lion. It was loud. So loud it woke up the python. Python was angry and chased Annie and Jack. When the python was chasing them, it went through a herd of ants. And they looked and looked, but they couldn't find the treehouse. But they could see a shadow behind them. Chapter 4, Treehouse. There were grass and python was getting closer, Jack and Annie saw the cheetah drop down. The python kept chasing them. Then the python was gone. The cheetah took Jack and Annie to the treehouse. Annie thanked the cheetah for saving them and said goodbye. Jack also thanked the cheetah and climbed into the treehouse. They made a wish to go home. The treehouse started to spin faster and faster, then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 5. We are home. When Jack and Annie looked out the window to see where they were, they discovered they were home. They could hear their mom calling them for dinner. Jack, Annie, time for dinner, her mom called. They could hear Henry barking. Jack and Annie hurried down the treehouse ladder. I can't believe it. We almost got eaten by a python and we rode a cheetah, said Jack. Yeah, cheetahs are fast. The cheetah saved us from the python. And giraffes are tall, said Annie. Don't forget the elephants. They are tall too, Jack said. And the python was like a school bus, maybe even two school buses. Come on, let's go, said Annie. Two of them went home.
An Ocean Adventure, Chapter 1, Sleepover. It was a beautiful fall day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. Jack and Annie were playing basketball in their driveway, and then a car came in the driveway. Out of the car came their friends. It was Mia, Annabeth, and Gracie. They were having a sleepover. Yay, we can go to the treehouse, said Annie. No, they just came to play, said Jack. I actually want to go to the treehouse, said Gracie. Mia and Annabeth agreed with Gracie. The friends took off running to the treehouse. Jack followed. Chapter 2, Going to the Treehouse. Jack, come on, said Mia. All the friends went up the rope ladder. Annabeth grabbed the ocean book. I wish we could go to the ocean, said Annabeth. Stop, said Jack. It was too late. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 3, The Ocean. The treehouse was on a giant piece of seaweed. Annie and Gracie jumped into the ocean. Are you nuts? Said Jack. Gracie and Annie said no. Then everyone else jumped into the ocean. Someone swam up to them. They had a lot of turtles swimming around him. Jack and Annie said hi. Hi, my name is Jackson, said Jackson. A little bit later, they all became friends. Chapter 4, Oh no! The friends were playing in the ocean. Then, all of a sudden, there was a shark. Gracie said, run into that cave. The shark swam into a rock. All the friends swam as fast as they could. The friends lost the shark. That was not
the only thing that was lost. They were lost too. Oh no, said Jack, I can't find Annie. He finally found Annie and everyone else was found too. And the shark came back. Run, said Jackson. Chapter 5, Going Home. Jackson's turtles came back and helped them all get back to the treehouse. The friends climbed up the rope ladder. Mia grabbed the Pennsylvania book and said, I wish we could go home. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. The friends went down the ladder and ran home. The friends could hardly believe the adventure they just had.
Badgers with a Bell. Chapter 1, It's Time. Jack was racing Annie around the house. Just then a thought hit him. Come to the treehouse, it said. Jack skidded to a stop. Annie dashed to Jack. We need to go to the treehouse, Annie said. Jack nodded in agreement. Be back soon, shouted Annie. They took off into the woods. Annie anxiously climbed the rope ladder. In the treehouse, they found Morgan, Teddy, and a dog. Where is Kathleen? Asked Jack. And who's that dog? The dog is Kathleen, said Teddy as he stroked her soft, fluffy fur. Chapter 2, Where are we? Oh no, cried Annie. Kathleen whimpered. We need you to find 3 things to undo the spell, exclaimed Morgan. And remember this, a friendly person you will meet. Go and play and firmly greet, and find a treasure most unique. Goodbye now, then. Morgan and Teddy disappeared, and in their place was a book. It had a magenta cloth bookmark. Jack read the title, The Wonders of Wisconsin. I wish we could go there, Annie blurted. The trio started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Annie! Then everything was still, absolutely still. We're here, said Annie. Kathleen yipped. They were dressed in jeans instead of shorts and an old t-shirt. They heard cats meowing. They smelled the cool, crisp air as it blew their hair. Where are we? Asked Jack. In the book he read. In Wisconsin there are many farms. Chapter 3, Who are you? We're on a farm, shouted Annie. Just then a girl emerged from the house. She stared at the treehouse and then walked over. Let's go down, Annie said. Then she started down the rope ladder. She's totally nuts, thought Jack as he shoved the book in his pack. He held Kathleen as he went down the rope ladder. Hello, Amelia said to the stranger. Annie said to the stranger. My name is Annie, and this is my older brother, Jack. My name is Amelia Schmidt. Where did you come from, Amelia? Question. From Creek, Pennsylvania, Jack answered. What year is it? 2022, Amelia replied. Is that a mini terrier? She pointed to Kathleen. Jack shrugged. Do you have cats? Annie interrupted. Yes, Amelia said. What's that sound? Asked Annie. Jack heard a ringing sound. Annie followed the noise to a door. She started to open it. Wait, Amelia cried, but it was too late. A puppy leaped out of the house. Annie jumped out of the way just in time. The puppy bounded straight for Jack. Chapter 4, What's that? Nora, Amelia yelled. Nora pounced on Jack. She slurped her sloppy tongue all over Jack's face. Nora, you wrecking ball, Amelia laughed. Annie laughed. Kathleen barked. Amelia tugged on Nora's collar and dragged her inside the house. Then she helped Jack up. Sorry about the dog, Amelia apologized. Jack's face was dripping wet. Let's go somewhere she won't get us. How about there? Annie pointed to the field. Sure, said Amelia. The trio raced over to the field. At the field, Amelia heard a hiss sound. She knelt down. Uh-oh, it's a badger then. A badger? Jack shrieked. He sounded terrified. Then Amelia noticed something. She's caught in a net with her babies. Then Amelia took a safety kit out of her pocket. She pulled out gloves and a knife and cut the net open. A badger nuzzled her as if to say thank you. One of the babies snuggled in Amelia's arms. Then the mom turned to Jack and gave him a piece of her fur. Thank you, Jack whispered. You might want to go home now. It's close to dusk, Amelia pointed out. Jack and Annie both looked up at Jack and Annie both looked at the sun. She was starting to say, yeah, said Jack. Let's go, Annie. He picked up Kathleen. The five went to the treehouse. Amelia gave Kathleen's head a stroke. Then they said goodbye. Jack and Annie climbed up the rope ladder. Jack picked up the Pennsylvania. He glanced at Amelia by the badgers. I wish we could go home, he shouted. In a flash, the treehouse started to spin. Jack shut his eyes. It spun faster and faster, and everything was absolutely still. Chapter 5, Home Sweet Home. Jack opened his eyes. I'm glad to be home, Annie sighed. I miss being on a farm, though. Jack nodded. They both went down the rope ladder. Jack and Annie hurried home. Hey guys, said their dad. We are going on a trip to the Schmidt family farm on Friday. Jack and Annie whooped with laughter. But
Jack and Annie got home from school. They went inside to have lunch. Do you want to go to the treehouse, said Annie. No, said Jack. Fine, you can stay. I am going to the treehouse. Fine, you and I will come, said Jack. In disappointment, Jack could not believe Annie won again. Jack and Annie got their clothes on and ran off to the treehouse. Annie gets to the treehouse first. Sand races up the rope ladder. Jack follows her. Jack finds a book. The title is called What Are the Pyramids? That is about when the pyramids were built, which was 19,000 BC. Jack opened to the sandy bookmark, and Jack pointed his finger up and said, I wish we could go there. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. It spun as fast as a tornado until everything went still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. They are at the pyramids. Jack and Annie were wearing leather clothes, and Jack had a leather backpack. And they smell sand, they hear camels, they smell camels. They peered out of the window, but they see camels, they see people and pyramids. Jack, I see pyramids. Wait, pyramids? Where are we? Guards heard him. The guards rushed up to them. The guards rushed up the rope ladder. I have an idea, said Jack. Do it fast, said Annie. He closed the ladder door. Okay. Now we have to jump out of the window. Don't worry, when we peered out of the window, I saw there a pond right where the window is, said Jack. Okay, we can do this, said Annie. They jumped down and stayed underwater till the guards went away. They went out of the water.
Jack and Annie ran to the pyramids. They found a door. Jack and Annie tried to open the door. Jack looks in the book. It said the door weighed about 20 tons. That is 40,000 pounds. Jack was surprised. Geez, said Jack. Jack found a lever and Jack pulled it. The door opened. It was pitch black. Chapter 4, The Pyramid Trouble. Annie bumped into something. She screamed, "Ah!" Jack ran after her. Suddenly, the lights turned on. But there was a dark spot. They hear a lever be pulled down. They get trapped. The pitch black spot had a guard. The guard walked out of the dark spot, and he said, "If the rats don't finish you, I will." The guard walked out of the pyramid, and a mysterious cat walked to them. The cat had keys. Jack grabbed them, the keys. So yes, there was 5 keys. Jack tried them all. One of them worked. They ran out. They full sprinted. They got to the treehouse. A guard spotted them. Jack and Annie rushed up. So Jack flung his pack and found the Pennsylvania book and flipped to the page and closed his eyes and shouted, "I wish we could go home." The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Faster. The rope ladder was flying. The guard flew away. Until everything went still. Absolutely still. Jack and Annie opened their eyes. And Jack and Annie pack up to go home. Jack and Annie climbed down the rope ladder, and walked to the house. When they get home, the door was locked, but Annie had a lockpick. She opened the door. The lights were off. Jack said, "Mom and Dad are probably on a shopping spree." "Yeah, they," said Jack. "And we should go to sleep," said Annie. "Good idea." Jack and Annie, they go to sleep.
Crazy Days with Cobras, Chapter 1, Home. Jack and Annie were in their morning clothes playing ball. Then the ball rolled into a trail in Frog Creek Woods. Annie said, "I'll go get it." Jack said, "Wait up." Annie ran after the ball. So did Jack. Annie found it, but suddenly she found a treehouse. Annie said, "I found the ball, but I am in this treehouse. The ball is right under it." "Okay," Jack said. Annie said, "I found a book about the rainforest." Jack has always wanted to go to the rainforest. Jack found the treehouse and started up the rope ladder. Annie said, "What, Jack?" Jack said, "Can I make a wish to go to the Amazon rainforest?" "Why are you even asking me that question?" "Well, you have always wanted to go to a type of rainforest, so yeah." Jack opened the book, found a picture, and made a wish. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Amazon Rainforest. Jack and Annie both peered out the window. Annie said, "So many trees, plants, and animals." Jack said, "First let's see what animals live here." "Oh, cobras live here, jaguars, monkeys, orangutans, and panthers." Annie said, "Cobras? I hate cobras." Then Jack closed the book and shoved it in his pack. Then started down the rope ladder. And started to walk. Suddenly, Annie kicked something and said, "What was that?" "What was what?" Jack said. "I kicked something." "It might have been a rock," Jack said. Then a cobra popped out of a bush. Annie said, "Ah!" Then they heard something. It was a peregrine falcon. There was 2 of them diving towards Jack and Annie. Suddenly, they snatched Jack and Annie. Chapter 3. The Peregrine Falcon. The peregrine falcon swept through the sky. Jack felt as if he could fly forever. Annie said, "I can see the treehouse from here." Annie decided to name the peregrine falcons Pee-wee and the other one Kiwi. Annie said they must be very brave to do this. "I love you guys." Then Pee-wee and Kiwi dropped Jack and Annie off on a tree. Then the cobras found Jack and Annie again. Suddenly, a sloth grabbed Jack and Annie with its huge, long nails. The cobras started to slither up the tree, slowly, very, very slowly. Then a magical girl appeared and said, "The treehouse is mine." "Oh, it is yours?" Jack said. "What is your name?" Annie asked. "My name is Morgan Le Fay." Morgan exclaimed. Morgan has a red velvet robe on and had red hair. Jack could not stop staring at Morgan. Morgan said, "If you solve this riddle, you can keep traveling in the treehouse." "So we have to solve it?" Jack said. Suddenly, Morgan disappeared and left the scroll. Jack read out loud. "Rough and gray as rock, plain as plain can be. Hidden there's great beauty in me. What am I?" Chapter 4. Their bravery. The cobras got up the tree. Jack ran towards the cobras. So did Annie. Jack saw a tree. It was plain as can be. Jack said tree. Annie said tree too. Morgan appeared and said, "Congratulations, you have solved the riddle." Jack and Annie jumped to the treehouse. The treehouse appeared. Jack took out the Pennsylvania book. He made a wish. "I wish to go home," said Jack. The wind started to blow and the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 5. Home Sweet Home. Jack and Annie's mom was calling them. "Jack! Annie! Coming, coming," said Jack. "Nobody's going to believe our story," Annie said, "so let's not tell anybody," Jack said. Then they skipped home. Their mom called again, Jack, Annie. Coming, Mom, Annie said. Jack would never forget that trip, especially Morgan Le Fay. We were not expecting her to show up, said Annie. I did not know that we would have to take a test on how to solve that riddle, said Jack. Jack continued, I can't wait for another adventure in the treehouse and with Morgan Le Fay. The end.
It was night. Jack couldn't sleep. So Jack got up and went to Annie's room and saw she also couldn't sleep. Jack walked over to her. Annie said, I can't sleep. Do you want to do something? Jack said. Sure. Annie whispered, let's go to the treehouse. Jack agreed. Annie smiled. Let's go. So they tiptoed down the stairs. Jack grabbed a flashlight. They put some shoes on and they opened the door slowly and walked out and closed the door. They walked into the woods and went to the treehouse. Annie went first and Jack went next. When Jack was halfway up, he threw the flashlight to Annie. When Jack got up in the treehouse, Annie opened a book about space. Jack said no. Annie stopped. What, Jack? If you wish to go there, we will suffocate. So let's find some space suits. They dug for suits and found one, and Jack found one. Annie found one, and Jack found one. They put on the spacesuits. Annie said, it's hot. Not when you're in space, Jack said. No, yes, they argued. So Jack opened the book about space and he wished to go there. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack looked out the window. They were on the moon. Jack said, it feels like we are on the moon. He opened the book and it said, on the moon you only can jump 9 feet high or more. Annie said, I'm cold. Jack said, told you you would be cold. Annie went by Jack and said, wow, let's go down the ladder. While they were going down the ladder, they saw a rocket-looking thing coming at them. Annie, go up, Jack shouted. Why? Annie asked. Jack yelled, because there's a rocket. Jack and Annie raced up the ladder. Jack and Annie hid under the books. Jack hid under the books by the window while Annie was under the books by the corner. Jack looked out the window. He said, this is going to take a while. Jack and Annie got back up. Then all of a sudden they heard a loud noise. Jack shouted, hide! Jack looked out the window. The rocket was getting closer and closer. The ship landed right by the treehouse. Then an astronaut came out. Jack looked closer and closer. It looked like Neil Armstrong. Jack looked closer and closer, and it was Neil Armstrong. He looked in the book. It said Neil Armstrong was the first person on the moon. He landed on the moon in 1969. It's 1969, Jack shouted. The astronaut heard, and Annie started walking toward the treehouse. He climbed the ladder. Jack and Annie knew he was climbing up the ladder. Annie whispered to Jack, we can't let him see us. We will change history. Jack threw her the Frog Creek book. Jack whispered, "I will punch him off the ladder so he doesn't come with us." Jack punched the astronaut off the ladder, knocking him out. Annie wished to go back. So the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. "We're back," Annie shouted. They took off their suits and went to the ladder. They ran to their house and opened the door slowly. Jack and Annie took off their shoes and tiptoed to the bedroom. Jack opened his book and wrote in it, "The End."
The Magic Treehouse, The Island Before Dawn by Emerson O'Patchen. It was lunchtime for Jack and Annie. Annie wanted to eat in the Magic Treehouse. Jack thought it was a good idea. They'd never eaten in the Magic Treehouse before. Jack put his lunch in his lunchbox and ran to the woods. Annie was already there and was looking at the island book. She waited for Jack and she yelled, "I wish we can go there." The treehouse started to spin faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2. The treehouse was still in a tree, but a different tree. Annie raced down the ladder and into the sand. Annie's eye got big as she looked at the ocean. Jack slowly went down the ladder. Jack said, "Annie, can you smell the air? It smells salty. We need to get home and make a plan." Annie disagreed. But she wanted to stay. It was getting cold. Jack said taught him how to make a fire. The fire will help them stay warm and not get hypothermia. Chapter 3. It was getting dark and cold. Jack and Annie had a charged flashlight so they can see when it gets dark. Annie asked, "Did you get the fire started?" "No," yelled Jack. "Can you please get it going?" asked Annie. She was getting cold. Jack and Annie decided to go up to the treehouse and sleep where it might be safe. It was dark out. Jack felt the tree shake. Annie was out, but Jack could not sleep. He sat up and looked for the Frog Creek book, but a big wave hit the tree. Jack fell out of the tree and yelled for Annie. Jack yelled for Annie, but she couldn't hear him. Chapter 4. A big wave came into the beach. Jack hurried up to the ladder as a big wave hit. Jack held on tight. The wave went out and Jack was safe. Chapter 5. Jack grabbed the Frog Creek book and yelled to Annie, "Wake up! Annie, wake up! Wake up!" shouted Jack. "I wish we can go there," yelled Jack. The treehouse started to spin and spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. They looked out the window and shouted, "We're home!" Jack and Annie looked around and saw their lunch. They never did have their lunch. Jack and Annie sat in the middle of all the books and finished their lunch.
Jack and Annie were on the couch talking about all the adventures they had in the Magic Treehouse. Annie said, "Maybe we should go somewhere." Jack and Annie went to the treehouse and went up the ladder. Annie was searching the books. She found one about the Amazon. Annie made a wish to go to the Amazon jungle. Then the treehouse started to spun faster and faster until everything went still, absolutely still. They saw vines, trees, and heard parrots. We're in the Amazon. Good job. Now let's explore, Jack said. Okay, Annie said. Jack and Annie went down, and they fell down on a pile of hay. Ah, Annie said. An iron cage fell down on them. Quick, look for something useful, Jack said. Annie found a sword to cut the cage open. They made it to the end, but there was a lava moat. Annie found a pickaxe. Then she made a hole in the wall, and the lava drained so they could go to the treehouse. When they found the book, Annie made a wish to go home. Then the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything went still, absolutely still. Then Jack and Annie went outside and played Vegas for 4 days. It was 4 in the morning. Annie could not sleep. Annie went to Jack's room. Hey Jack, you sleeping? Annie whispered. Jack replied, yes, but what do you want, Annie? Annie said, do you want to go to the treehouse? Jack whispered. Annie said, I want to go on an adventure. Jack whispered, fine, but we need to be quiet. Jack and Annie tiptoed down the stairs and opened the creaky door quietly. Jack turned on his flashlight, and they headed for the woods. I see the treehouse. Let's go up, said Jack. They were looking at books about big cities. Annie finds one about Las Vegas. It looks awesome, Annie exclaimed. I wish we could go to Las Vegas. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. We're in Las Vegas, said Annie. Annie looked out the window and saw lots of cars, lights, people, and buildings. It was very loud. Come on, let's go to that clown hotel, shouted Annie. Okay, replied Jack. A clown, shouted Annie. Run! There is a clown chasing us, yelled Annie. Go, go, go! Let's go into the hotel, yelled Jack. They ran into the hotel. We're safe. The clown was chasing after them, but got lost and could not find the room. Annie said, I think it's safe. I think we can go to the treehouse. Jack and Annie reached the treehouse and got the Frog Creek book. Annie said, I wish we could go to Frog Creek Woods. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Annie looked out the window. We're back. Let's go home, said Annie. They went back to their house. Annie said, let's go inside and go to sleep. They started to go to their own rooms and went to sleep. The end.
Magic Treehouse by Blake. Jake and Annie were at home and were bored, so they decided to go outside. Jack had a shark monster truck. Annie wanted to see a real shark. Annie decided they should go to the Magic Treehouse to look in books for one, and
She asked Jack if they could go. They went to the treehouse. When they got to the treehouse, it was on one of the tallest limbs in the tree. Jack picked up a book with a green bookmark. It was about the ocean. Jack said, "I wish we could go there." And the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and it stopped, and everything was still, really still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2, Lost at Sea. Jack looked out the window and saw the ocean. So did Annie. They saw a big group of dolphins and said, "Annie." And Jack and Annie got in the water. The dolphins swam on over. Suddenly, the dolphins stopped and started to swim the other way. Jack and Annie got confused. They did not know what happened. Annie looked over and saw a big school of fish. Annie said, "Jack, look at the really, really big shark." Jack screamed, "Swim!" and swam as fast as they could. Jack and Annie got to the island. Jack got on his notebook and wrote, "Dolphins eat fish." Annie said, "The shark will hurt the dolphins." Annie got so surprised. The dolphins started hitting the shark. Annie ran into the water and Jack tried to stop her, but Jack could not stop Annie. Jack tried to stop Annie again, but he could not go into the water. Chapter 3. Annie got into the water, so did Jack, to play with the dolphins. They had lots of fun. Next, they saw a coral reef, and Annie swam to it. Jack showed Annie a frogfish, stingray, and a sea turtle. Also a clownfish and a whale shark. Annie thought the whale shark would eat them, but it did not. Then they wanted to go to the treehouse. Jack and Annie started to swim to the treehouse. When they turned, they saw a tuna. Jack and Annie saw a tuna. Chapter 4. Jack and Annie saw a tuna, and the shark was chasing it. Annie looked down and saw an octopus hiding in the sand. Along with a sea anemone. Annie said, "It will
not hurt us, will it? Jack started to swim, and they swam to the treehouse. When they got wet, they went around and they saw a really big great white shark and got scared. Annie saw a shark and screamed. They saw it. They swam as fast as they could. Annie got her legs caught in two rocks and it started to bleed. Finally, they made it to shore and it to the shore and to the treehouse and reached and climbed the rope ladder. When they wanted to find the book and couldn't find the book. It was just in Jack's bag. Jack opened the book. I wish we could go to Frog Creek. And the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything went still. Absolutely still. Chapter 5. When Annie and Jack looked out the window, "We're home," Annie yelled. Jack climbed down the ladder. Jack yelled, "Annie, look, there are 2 unicycles down there. Let's ride them." And Jack and Annie giggled. They all the way home to ride the unicycles. Magic Treehouse, Jesus in Jerusalem. It was damp and cool outside. Jack and Annie were taking a walk. It was morning time. Annie wanted to go to the treehouse. "Let's go to the treehouse," said Annie. "Okay," said Jack. Jack and Annie started to run down the street and through the woods. Finally, they reached the treehouse and started to climb up the rope ladder. Jack picked up a book about the Middle East. Jack flipped through the pages and stopped. Jack found the right page. Jack pointed to the picture of Jesus talking to me. "I wish we could go there." The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster till everything was still, absolutely still. The air was warm and smelled like flowers. The birds were tweeting and there was a nice breeze blowing. Annie and Jack heard a voice. Jack and Annie looked out the window. "Look," said Annie, "a crowd of people. Let's go." Jack said okay. They climbed down the rope ladder and they ran through the crowd of people. "I can't see," exclaimed Annie. "Me neither," said Jack. Annie said, "Let's crawl." Jack and Annie crawled on the dusty, rough, and sturdy ground. Jack and Annie heard someone say, "Hello, children." They stood up and saw Jesus. Jack and Annie were in front of Jesus. "Hi, Jack and Annie," said Jesus. Jack and Annie looked shocked and asked, "How do you know our names?" He replied, "Lord Jesus knows everyone." Jack wanted to go back to the treehouse. Let's go back to the treehouse, said Jack. No, I want to stay a while, exclaimed Daddy. I am hungry, said Jack. We can go fishing by the brook. Follow me, said Jesus. Jack and Annie decided to follow Jesus. They followed him through the tall grass and trees. Finally, they reached the river. Jesus picked up a stick and pulled out some string. Jesus tied the string to a stick. Annie and Jack picked up the stick. Jesus grabbed them a piece of string. Annie tied the string to the stick. And Annie did Jack stick and Jack did the same. Jesus pulled out 3 hooks, one for each of them. What do we do now? Exclaimed Annie. First put the strings through the hole of the hook, said Jesus. Annie and Jack watched and followed the directions. Good. Now tie the string, explained Jesus. Jack and Annie put the hook in the water. How will we catch a fish without a worm? Asked Jack. Just wait and you will see, replied Jesus in a calm voice. Jack felt a tug on the line with a huge splash. A big fish jumped out of the water. It was black with blue stripes on his back. Jack pulled the stick as hard as he could. The fish started to swim up to Jack. Finally, Jack was able to get the fish on the land. The fish was as big as a python. Can you please help me carry the fish? Asked Jesus. Jack and Annie helped Jesus carry the big fish. Jack and Annie went into the woods to find some firewood. When they came back, Jesus had got the fish all ready to eat. Jack and Annie seasoned it with sweet bush. Jack looked at his watch. The fish will be done soon. The fish was done. Jack and Annie and Jesus had 2 pieces of fish. We have to go home, said Jack. Okay, bye, Annie and Jack, said Jesus. Annie and Jack ran through the tall grass and finally reached the treehouse. Jack and Annie climbed up the rope ladder. Jack found the book that had Frog Creek Woods. I wish we can go there, yelled Annie. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. It was cool outside, and Jack put the Pennsylvania book away. Jack and Annie started to climb down the rope ladder and went back to their house. Jack and Annie got to the treehouse. Jack opened the door and whispered to Annie, I am actually tired, and went up in his room. Annie felt the same. Jack and Annie both climbed into bed and went to sleep.
Jack and Annie are at school and was learning about the ocean and had an idea. She told Jack to meet her at the treehouse. Annie opened up a book about the ocean. It showed a boat in the middle of the water. Before Jack could say anything, Annie made the wish to go to the ocean. The treehouse started to spin, and it spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Jack and Annie looked out the window and heard through what thought was water. Everywhere Jack looked down and saw there was a ship. There were a lot up in the crow nest. Annie asked Jack, Can you smell the salt, Jack? Anton sweared. What? Swore. Yes, we must be in the ocean. Annie and Jack looked down, and there were sharks all around them. Then a big shark came and bumped the ship. They went to find a fisherman on the boat to teach them how to catch big fish. Jack caught a big fish and almost fell in. Annie noticed it was getting dark. She whispered to Jack, "Where did the tree house go?" Jack asked the fisherman to take them back to the shore. The fisherman said yes. Right away they arrived back at shore, but they didn't not see the tree house. Jack and Annie walked along the beach. Jack shouted, "There is the tree house." They ran to the tree house and opened up the ladder and opened the book and wished for them to go back to Frog Creek. The tree house began to spin, and it spun faster and faster until everything was still, absolutely still. Jack looked out the window and told Annie they were back home. Opened the door. She realized no time has passed. Mom looked at the both of them and asked how was their day was at school. Jack and Annie just smiled at each other. Other and sat down to have a snack.